Yes? Due diligence team members, I won't spend a lot of time. I think Pat just pretty well summarized this. The only one that I really want to focus on is acquirer management. So again, a lot of times what we find, especially in the middle market, is that there isn't a depth of management. So what happens is there's a CEO and a CFO involved in the process, and they bring in a lot of outside advisors to help. And I think outside advisors create a lot of value. But what I will tell you, if you come to me and talk to me, is I want to make sure your people are involved, because you're going to have to live with the outcome of this. And it sort of brings us to one of the best practices in M&A practices, which is make sure that you involve people from your firm that have experience in all the different functional areas that are going to be impacted. So far too often we don't see sales involved in the due diligence process. We see, again, it's finance, perhaps the CEO, and sometimes operations. What about HR? What about sales? In an effort to try to sort of contain the transaction and maintain confidentiality, you streamline the team to the point that you don't have the people that are going to be involved in the ongoing management involved in due diligence. One of the best practices out there is, again, to make sure that you've identified a lot of different people, but that they commit to the targets. So you're going to have some financial model that's going to reflect your estimated return on your investment. It's going to drive all of your integration planning and your strategy. What happens if you sit down? I guess how many people here have set, forget M&A, you set budgets without consulting with the departments affected by the budgets? Yeah. I've done it too, by the way. It doesn't go well, right? Their reaction is usually, those are your numbers, they're not mine. I'm going to manage a different set of numbers. Well, the exact same thing happens in M&A, right? You set targets at a high level. I've got, we're going to achieve 5% revenue synergies. We're going to have 20% cost reductions. They may be back of the envelope estimates. I got this beautiful spreadsheet. Look, the numbers work, and when I put in an assumption, I have income. The problem is that the people that are going to be responsible for achieving those targets haven't bought into it. So some of the best acquirers out there, the serial acquirers, the ones that do this for a living, will make sure that they require those people to be involved and that they sign off in blood before the transaction closes, because they're going to be responsible for delivering those against those objectives. Related note, include a devil's advocate. Again, a lot of times on the acquirer side, the management team that's involved in the process are the people that fall in love with the transaction. Some of the best acquirers will pick somebody out of the management team whose sole role is to sit in the boardroom with you and shoot holes in every one of your assumptions. And you probably know somebody at your company that would fit that role very well. But make sure that you involve them in the process, and make sure that they don't get involved in other due diligence exercises. Let them sit there and shoot holes in your assumptions, what could go wrong. That's going to help you develop a better integration plan. It's going to help you pull back some of your assumptions potentially. And if you can develop a thesis that works under those scenarios, then you're going to probably have a much greater opportunity to realize some return on your investment. Lastly, insist on access to the key value drivers. This comes back to the point we had earlier. If there are key customers, make sure that you get access to the customers. Maybe not early on, but at least late in the process before closing. Make sure you get access to the key employees and the vendors that you're going to have to deal with on a long-term basis. The vendors are sometimes important because a lot of times we see cost synergies as one of the main drivers of a transaction value. So if you don't have any idea if the vendors are on board, how do you know whether or not you're going to be successful in achieving those objectives? So